and the president, he's actually CEO of Signature Travel, is actually Alex Sharp. He mentioned, as tough as a situation is, we felt good about this decision, and we feel good about how we're going to get there and people we can help while we're there. And what they did was they decided to move forward, and just after consulting with different local stakeholders too, which is great. And they felt that they should stay West Maui as the other area recovers, but they wanted to be able to support these people too. So what they did was, Mr. Sharp mentioned Signature will be spending more than $2 million at the meeting, and this will go to the Grand Wailea and other hotels hosting events, and the Fairmont Kealani and another Wailea resort, and other thousands of locals that are employed by these resorts, which is great. They did some adjustments to the conference, but once they did too is, first, in order to provide essential items arriving in Hawaii, Signature would not ship anything to the island. Instead, attendees were encouraged to bring things like notebooks and pens, which are usually provided at the meetings. And also, they decided to have the meeting confined to the Wailea area only, away from any of the recovery areas too. And what's good too is with Signature Travel Network, they've got a nonprofit arm too, and they wanted to actually broaden the fundraising event surrounding the meeting. And what they did was, in addition to having an online silent auction of more than 20 travel experiences, Travel Elevates will also collect donations, and all funds will go to designated charities too, which is great. These include the Hawaii Community Foundation's Maui Strong Fund, the Maui Food Bank, and the Maui Humane Society. And also, attendees who are attending this special conference event were provided with a list of Maui's most needed supplies to bring in check bags. And the Saturday, September 9th, will be dedicated giving it back to those attended by who actually were affected by the wildfires through the work at the Grand Wailea and projects like organizing food preparation. And it was really great. And he actually mentioned some other things too on Facebook. We're friends on Facebook, but he mentioned that he was off to Maui himself. He first posted this when he was flying over there, and he said, "I now have 200 pounds of supplies of my work clothes in our date of service, but he's planning to enjoy this beautiful destination too. Look forward to a great meeting." And once again, he mentioned that it's a way to support the people of Maui and the islands as they recover from those August fires, and offering funds raised as a part of the September 2023 Travel Elevates will go directly to the Hawaii's Community Foundation's Maui Strong Fund, the Maui Food Bank, and also the Maui Humane Society. And he just mentioned that too. He just mentioned before returning, because they were just finishing things up, but he's mentioned some of the beautiful things in the world are the Maui sunset, traveling with loved ones, and helping fellow men. And the only place you can really get all four of these, all of these are supported by tourism too, which is great. And he said that, right now, the best way really to support is to come and enjoy Maui. And also, like I said, it's going to take some time to recover. But once again, the rest of the island is beautiful and welcome as ever. So once again, I want to commend what Signature Travel Network just did. They're in the process of finishing up their conference, and it's their owners meeting, but I congratulate them so much. And once again, think about ways to donate too, because they really need it. And those wildfires came up so unexpectedly. You don't think about that. But once again, it's a good way to really kind of share some positive efforts too. And that really, really made me smile. It's wonderful to see what they're doing too, because not the whole island of Maui shut down right now too. People need to understand that too. Certain areas are, but other places are not. So once again, it's a good way to support people that were affected by those wildfires too. Something else that is interesting is, we talk about ships being deployed in different areas, but one area that is really growing like crazy has actually been cruise ships actually having their ships deployed in the U.S. As mentioned, Galveston is been growing like crazy, as is Port Canaveral, which is maybe an hour and a half away from flying into Orlando, which is great. It's actually the fastest growing port right now, which is great. But what came up too is with Carnival Cruise Line, they just unveiled more of their 2025 and 2026 deployment by opening up bookings for Alaska sailings from Seattle for two ships, the Carnival Spirit and the Carnival Luminosia, which is great. And what they do is, people think about going to Alaska, of course, as a shorter season. But once again, if you go to Alaska, you got choices. You can either sail out of Seattle, which has been on for a while, or Vancouver. And with Seattle, it's a beautiful area, and ships actually started going out of Seattle. Oh my gosh, probably about, I'm trying to think, the past 10 years, which is great. And I've been to Seattle a few years ago, but it's great to see what they've done, because once again, it's another option. If you're thinking about going to Alaska, it's easier to get to maybe Seattle rather than Vancouver. And once again, you can actually sail out of Seattle and still do Alaskan cruises, which is great. And what they did was they mentioned with Carnival, with the Carnival Spirit, their Alaskan season aboard Carnival Spirit is going to be offering 21 week-long sailings departing Seattle and then cruising to the Tracy Arm Fjord, and also stopping in ports of Skagway, Juneau, and Ketchikan, Alaska, as well as Victoria, British Columbia. Out of those first three ports, I've been to Skagway, I've been to Juneau, I've been to Ketchikan. They're beautiful. So definitely keep that in mind, too. And also, Carnival Spirit's going to be offering some Carnival Journey cruises, too, in advance of its Alaska season. So definitely keep that in mind. That will be coming up in 2025 and 2026. And also, with Carnival Luminosa, they're offering 7-day Alaskan sailings departing every Thursday, departing May 1st of 2025 and continuing on through September 11th through 2025. And they will be departing from Seattle. Also, ship sails to Tracy Arm Fjord, Skagway, Juneau, Ketchikan, as well as Victoria, too. So definitely, I think, keep that in mind, too, because once again, Alaska is a beautiful area to visit, view, experience, and just a great way to really enjoy wildlife, nature, glaciers. And with those small cities, they're just beautiful. I can walk around and see beautiful things, too. Definitely, I want to go back to Alaska sometime, too. And what they did was they have their, following the Alaska season, the Carnival Spirit is going to be sailing on a 15-day round-trip Carnival Journey cruise to Alaska, to Hawaii from Seattle. And then she'll be visiting Honolulu, Oahu, Maui, Kauai, and Hilo in Hawaii, as well as Victoria, British Columbia, too. So definitely keep in mind, because there's so many options out there now. More than ever, it's good to plan ahead, because once again, the Alaska season tends to be a bit shorter because of the cold front comes through, too, and usually you can start sailing to Alaska cruises maybe May through September. But once again, keep that in mind, too, because it's a beautiful place to go to, and the wildlife and the small towns are great, and seeing glaciers, too. Any questions for me about that, Mark?
No, just hearing your conversation. I know you were fighting off a little bit of a cold and everything, so I didn't know if you needed to go get some water. But that is actually the question I had. If you happen to get sick on a cruise, I know that they have doctors. We've talked about that before, and they have nurses. And of course, there are ways that you can get cough medicine and even aspirin and other things while you are on the cruise. So maybe if you want to talk about how you can address what is going on, because of course, when we go on cruises, we want to be as healthy as possible. But you might catch a cold, you might catch the flu, or you might catch a fever, and of course they are prepared for that. Even if you have a toothache or something along those lines, I'm sure that if you have your pharmacist give whatever prescriptions you are on, that they can fill the prescriptions from the boat as well. But that might be something that folks might be interested in that are going on cruises, because we are getting ready to go into the fall season, which means that some people will be going on cruises, but the bugs are out there as well, even if you're on the sea as well. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about how they can do in the sense of taking care of themselves even while they are on the cruise as well.
Good question. I have a throat lozenge in my throat, too. It's getting a little dry. Sorry for the coughing. But what's good too is, what people don't realize is cruise ships have fully staffed hospitals on board. It's not only for the crew, but also for guests too. And once again, what I suggest people do is make sure you purchase travel insurance in advance. Because if something comes up unexpectedly, just purchase. There are great companies out there to sell travel insurance. I'm a big fan of Allianz. They're great. There's other ones out there too. But once again, they have different policies. You could actually get one just for the cruise if you want. Always purchase travel insurance because once again, not only does it cover medical things too, but for instance, one time my luggage didn't make it to the ship. Okay. I flew down, and what it was when I checked my bags with the sky cabs out front, I didn't bother to check. They actually routed to the wrong airport. So, I got down to Fort Lauderdale. I was waiting for my luggage. Didn't show up. I looked at my bag and said, oh my God, they sent to the wrong city. So anyway, I did call them. Meantime, the airline was going to ship back, but it was going to be getting back to Fort Lauderdale after the ship departed. But once again, because they have travel insurance, is able to collect documentation, what purchases I made, submit to those too. And then my luggage actually got delivered on Monday. I sailed on a Friday. So what I did was I had a friend that had a rental car and went to Sawgrass Mills, other places, Target. As I tell people, I boarded as a bag lady with clothes and bags. But it's good to get travel insurance because once again, it covers delays, lost luggage, even medical issues too. So once again, just make sure you do that too, because once again, they've got hospitals on board. And one time I actually wound up getting norovirus on the ship. And I did 2 back-to-back cruises. And the first sailing went fine. And then we got off. I was able to tour another ship with my friend. We got back on the ship and we had a beautiful day on Sunday. And then we were sailing to Grand Cayman the next day, got off, did a tour myself, got back on. I felt my throat felt a little dry, whatever. But anyway, I felt okay. And I thought, let me get something to snack on first. And then got back in my stateroom and I started throwing up. I thought, that's kind of weird.
Right.
So I didn't make dinner. And what happened was norovirus. I think somebody run on the second back-to-back cruise. And what they did was we were quarantined to our stateroom. Couldn't go out. They had a doctor or nurse come to see us real quick. They gave us over-the-counter medications because with norovirus, it's different from coronavirus, completely different kind of situation. But what they did was they had to come in and take our temperature, check on us twice a day, clean the rooms privately. I couldn't go out to the stateroom, but once again, I got through it after 3 days, which was great. But once again, I had insurance, which helped out too, as far as covering some different medical things too, which is great. Once again, you just don't know. So once again, it's good to actually purchase travel insurance. It's best to purchase this through a professional travel insurance company, not through the cruise line. Not that I'm bad mouthing them, but back 2 years ago, I was always told my clients, okay, now if you're buying a travel insurance, you don't want to buy it from the company that you're sailing on. Okay, buy it from a separate company. And these are professional insurance companies. Travel Lines is one, they're great. Different policies. And they have professional doctors on board the ships and everything, which is great. So definitely something to keep in mind too.
Yeah, that sounds like the important things to deal with and to think about doing those kind of situations. Because, like you said, there are a number of folks that are there as well. They can even help with the situation, be that medical professionals or non-medical professionals. Because, like you said, a lot of these ships do have hospitals on board, and of course, they do have doctors' offices. And I want to say that there are even dentists that are there as well. So it's a number of folks that are doing a variety of jobs and all in that space. So that is something that I know is existing in those spaces and along those lines. So like you said, you got to be prepared and trying to figure out how you can deal with these situations, whatever those situations may be, and all along those lines. As a matter of fact, I think I've got a couple of short videos, and I was trying to load those up that actually deal with that as well. So I'll bring those up, and I think one of them even is 39 seconds or something along those lines that talk about being a nurse on board, and another one that talks about the emergency situation. So I'm trying to
Right.
get those up and get those running so that folks can check out what they can do when they are in those kind of situations. Because, like you just mentioned, you had that experience, and it was a personal experience that you had to go through, and all along those lines. But they are prepared and they are ready to deal with things in that kind of situation and all along those lines. So we're going to bring up
Right.
one of them, and I'll try to get both of them up and all in that space. But this is actually the one about the nursing's life on a cruise ship. And I'll also see if we got the other one about emergency situations. But let's check out this one about the
Okay.
nurses.
Last. Now everybody go to breakfast. You go bow for the result, nothing to discuss, cause I did by fault and without any doubt, I'm a me happy adult, I no go beat the girl, I no go.
Nurse's life and all in that space. But I've got the other one that is actually a little bit longer that deals with what goes on in those medical emergencies and all along those lines. So let's check this one out.
So what happens if there's a medical emergency on board? Well, most of the time it's completely covered by the medical team on the ship. We have a huge medical staff of doctors and nurses who can pretty much take care of anything. But there are times when you need extra help, and today's one of those days. We're sailing back to Florida because the cruise is ending, but we had to turn around for an emergency stop in Puerto Rico because there's something that needs attention that they just can't quite get on a cruise ship. I used to spend a lot of time in medical because I was always getting swabbed for COVID tests and stuff. But now because COVID testing has largely been done away with, the medical center is now focused on, the bigger emergencies and things like that. I went up on the helicopter deck and looks like we're just getting close enough. We should have them off the ship and taken care of in no time, and then we'll go back to Florida.
That's great. I mean, people don't realize they got professional doctors on board these ships, which is great because even as far as taking care of their crew members,
Right.
but also for the guests on board. So people don't realize it's almost like sometimes people refer to cruise ships as like big floating hotels. Okay. But sometimes with hotels, do they have doctors at the hotel themselves? Probably not. But that's one thing that's really, really good about the cruise industry where they stand up because they have actually, I've seen part of the hospitals myself too. It's amazing what they do. They're really professional, certified, physicians and nurses and everything. And they got their own area just for the crew members too, but also for the passengers too. So people don't realize it. Once again, it goes back to my belief that I feel safer on a ship. I really
That
do.
makes a lot of sense. And actually, I'm going to do it the other way because I didn't get a chance to download it the way that we usually download it. But there are even sometimes dentists that are on ships as well. So I'm actually going to pull this one up and hear what they've got to say about the dentists that are on the ship, because apparently there are dentists there as well.
Right.
On board. However,
Hold on a
it
second.
does not have to have a dentist. No cruise ships have dentists on board. So there are 4 things that you really need to do before you go on board a cruise. If you're going on a longer cruise, it's a really good idea to have a dental checkup before you go. Always bring along one of these tooth repair kits. You can buy them at pharmacies, drugstore, or on Amazon. They will help you if a crown falls out, a filling falls out, to temporarily patch it up and keep you going until the end of the cruise, or until you can find an emergency dentist. As I discovered, you have to find your own emergency dentist. Very few ships actually have lists of emergency dentists and contacts in ports. So I had a tooth crack once. I had to find my own emergency dentist. Make sure that you've packed some pain relief with you if you do have toothache. You could, of course, get pain relief from the medical center, but they will charge you an awful lot of money. New NYC system asks, are there dentists on board cruise ships? Any cruise ship that has more than 12 passengers has to have a doctor on board. However, it does not have to have a dentist. No cruise ships have dentists on board. So there are 4 things that you really need to do before you go on board a cruise. If you're going on a longer cruise, it's a really good idea to have a dental checkup before you go. Always bring along one of these tooth repair kits.
Yeah, that's a repeat of that early part, but I want to catch the beginning as well. But he brings up a good point that a lot of times there are not dentists on boards, particularly some of those that are the bigger ships and all in that space. They do have doctors, but they don't always have the dentists and some of the other specialty doctors as well and
Right.
everything, but you
Yes.
can do things to prepare, and that's what this gentleman was saying, and all along those lines.
That's a good point because once again, you have to prepare yourself too in advance, and advanced preparation really relieves some stress too. So definitely
Yeah.
keep that in mind, you know. And even like I said, in my case, when my luggage to make it to ship, well, I messed up. Okay. I had just been traveling the week before, came back, had a repack, had a early morning flight on a Friday morning, and I messed up because I didn't bother to check my bag tag. I checked luggage. What I should have done too is, and people now do it more than ever, but it's a good tip, is make sure you've got some extra clothes in your regular carry-on bag too. That's important. And I know some people right now, when we had this situation with the meltdown last year and bags being lost, horrible situations, sometimes people just take a big carry-on with them. They don't bother to actually check a bag anymore. So
Yes,
that's important to try to realize that either, because once again, with so many situations with lost bags and things, it was such a mess. And you know, with the delays in flights and things too, you know, you can actually get a bag tracker too. I got one of those, have figured out. But the point is, it's better, I think, to pack essentials in your carry-on bag. And you know, before it seems like airlines had certain specifications for a carry-on bag. I know one example, Southwest Airlines they used to have this little thing before you checked, you white lined it up to get on board the flight, but that little showed what size was. But I've seen people that drag on bigger carry-on bags. So I don't know if the airlines really check that now or not, because once again, a lot of people feel safer just taking a big carry-on bag with them, so things don't get lost.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know, another thing that's going on, particularly for us gentlemen, but it's not just gentlemen, a lot of women have been watching the U.S. Open and a number of other things that are out there. We're in the middle of football season. I know that you went to a university that had a strong basketball program and all in that kind of way, when there were sister schools like Notre Dame that have had strong football programs and all along those lines. But that being said, I was wondering, because one of the articles I was reading was that, you know, people might be on the cruise and they want to keep up with their sport, even though they're hundreds of miles away and everything. So they were saying that if you want to watch a sporting event on a cruise, it may not be as easy as turning it on ESPN like you would at home, but you don't have to miss out because you're on vacation. So they were saying that you can literally sail
Right.
and still watch your favorite sport and everything. They were saying that you might do it while watching television in the cruise ship, but that's good news because a lot of the cruise ships do have the television there. But the bad news is that a number of the sports channels might be limited and everything. So there are things that you might be missing, but of course you're on a trip. But there are also, I think, casinos and sports bars and things like that in some of these cruises, and they might be having folks watch it at the sports bars, because they mentioned that one of them is called
Right.
Playmakers, that's on Royal Caribbean, which is an ideal spot to watch college football or NFL, as they have several different games going on at once with fans crowded around watching. It's the same with the Skybox on Carnival ships. So I just wanted your thoughts around that, because we are in the middle of sports and sometimes folks might be
Yes.
wanting to see things, and they might even be wanting to do live streaming on their telephone and their devices
Right.
that they are carrying on as well. So it does look like different ones have various restrictions, because they were saying of all the cruise lines, Carnival seems to be the most restrictive on streaming content, even with their highest level premium Wi-Fi plan. But there are others that aren't as restrictive and all in that space. So just wondering your thoughts, because we are in the middle of the
Right.
sports season. So some folks might be wanting to watch these various things, whether it's the U.S. Open or whether it's NFL or whether it's college
Right.
or a number of other things.
Right. They vary, because I know that they have sports bars on cruise ships, which is
Mhm.
great. Sometimes we'll just have the games right there. I don't know, because once again, with the Wi-Fi, what's really great is over the past maybe 10 years, cruise lines Wi-Fi's have gotten much faster, more efficient too. Or before they were kind of slow. I told you back in 2013, I was doing a project with my friend Perry's company,
Mhm.
and I actually was very careful about the Wi-Fi use on the ship, because you got charged a special package. But it's easier for me actually to get off the ship and go to, for instance, sometimes I went to a bookstore, free Wi-Fi. Sometimes I went to a restaurant. I was doing a project for him. I went to a really great restaurant in St. Thomas. We were docked there. I was able to have lunch, access to free Wi-Fi. Get emails sent out too. But I know that Wi-Fi on cruise ships is really revved up to higher speed now, different programs, which is better. But it really kind of depends on what they offer and what you want to see and watch too. So you can always maybe check in advance but the Wi-Fi service on cruise ships is much, much, much better than it was even like 10 years ago. Much better.
Yeah. Yeah. And they were also saying that there are, and we talked about it before, that there are a number of, for those that are active citizens and are doing a much better job of exercise than yours truly is doing, that there are a number of things that you can do on the cruise ship. They were talking about that even smaller cruise ships offer active games such as ping pong, shuffleboard, and even putting greens to challenge your skills. And apparently there are some very large sports courts that have full size and half size sports court designed for basketball, volleyball, soccer, tennis, badminton, and dodgeball. And they're saying the lines that offer these include Princess Cruises, which I know we've talked about,
Right.
MSC, Royal Caribbean,
Yes.
Norwegian, Celebrity Cruises, Disney Cruise, Carnival, P&O, and select Holland American ships. And they're saying that the Seaplex complex on Royal Caribbean's
Right.
Odyssey of the Seas boasts the largest indoor active space on a ship with a full-size sports court, and that the MSC Meraviglia also has an indoor
Right.
sports complex with a sports court and other things. And they were saying, hey, I know my uncle who passed away not that long ago was an avid golfer and everything, but apparently the golf enthusiasts will be happy to know that nearly every ocean and river ship features some form of golf-inspired activity. So they
Right.
range from the gamut of driving cages and golf simulators to putting greens and mini golf courses. So if you want to get your
Miniature golf is big. Also, something else came up too with on waterways. You know, a really hot trend right now is pickleball.
right,
And Amo Waterways actually has a beautiful new pickleball area right there on board their ship.
yep, they said they actually mentioned that in the article I was reading. They talked
Right.
about the newest onboard racket sport is pickleball, and you can find
It
pickleball courts
is.
on Sky Princess, Enchanted Princess, Seven Seas Explorer, Seven Seas Splendor, and all of the Holland American ships. So they even host Princess and Holland America do host open play sessions or meetups to learn the rules of the game. So if you don't know about pickleball, you can learn the rules of the game. And they were also saying that ping pong and table tennis are available on almost
Oh,
every
they've been
cruise
on
ship,
for
and
years,
some lines
yes.
even
Yeah.
have tournaments. So there might even be a tournament that you can get involved in. And they're saying that several cruise ships of MSC and the German-based AIDA feature a squash court. So yeah, there's all kinds of things that are there. And they were talking about and I know we've had other shows where we talked about this. I know we saw the race car simulators, but apparently
Yes.
there are some that offer among the larger ships that have baseball batting cages, bowling alleys, which I know we saw on one of our
Yes.
previous episodes.
Yes.
And they've even got surfing simulators. So even though you're on the ocean, you can actually simulate like you would simulate a airplane or something like that going surfing. So you don't have to literally need to jump in the water, but you can have a simulator with surfing as well. So that could be quite interesting to go in a surfing simulator while you're on a cruise on the ocean.
One thing that Rockland started doing a long time ago too is they got their flow rider.
Oh wow.
Yes. And basically you can actually haven't done it. I'm very careful. I mean, I like swimming in the ocean, but not flow rider. Flow rider actually it's almost like a surfing type thing, but it's a special area. You pay extra for it. It looks really beautiful.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
But the big trend right now is pickleball is a big trend. It's not going away in Amo Waterways. They just did a big preview of their pickleball court now, which looks brand new. It looks beautiful. But once again, I've not played pickleball myself, but it's really a growing trend. So definitely think about that because there are so many energizing, interactive things you can do on board a cruise ship, not just sit and relax, which I like to do, but it's good to be able to think about options like that too.
Hey, speaking of trends, and I have gone to a couple. I've got friends in mind that actually work in this field and everything. But there is something that is very popular for the people that like to be kids at heart. It is something that is going on and has been going on for a number of years on land. That being the Comic-Con. Well, they are saying that if you can't make it to the Comic-Con, which is a lot of times a celebration of the different cartoons and comic books and everything, don't worry. They're actually getting ready to do one February 5th through the 9th. That'll include Tampa and Cozumel. It'll be Comic-Con the Cruise. So yes, for everybody who wants to go on, the fans of all things pop culture, there's a new cruise option coming in 2025. So it won't be next year. It'll be the next year after. But they're saying the beloved Comic-Con now has its own official theme cruise. So the first one is sponsored by the San Diego Comic Convention, and the cruise is promising to bring all of the geeked out excitement and community of the convention. So you'll be seeing people dressed up in their various comic book outfits, with a fair share of reveals and even celebrities that'll be on the cruise as well. So if you are one of those folks, I don't have any comic books that I'm a part of, but if you are one of those, then there will be a chance to do it, because they're saying that this means the entire ship will be full of Comic-Con fans with dedicated events, entertainment, and decoration, and it's being run by Entertainment Cruise Productions, a veteran-themed cruise company, which also produces, I think you might have said that you went on this, the 80s cruise and the Star Trek cruise, among others. So they produce those kind of themes and all along those lines. So if you are interested, that is something that folks can do, is go on this Comic-Con cruise in not next year, not 2024, but in
2025, right? Because when it was, I was working an article for another company, and basically they are doing that Comic-Con event. It looked fantastic. In fact, I saw videos too to incorporate different things with the article I was writing. It looked fantastic, really exciting. My gosh, and people are having so much fun.
Yeah, like I said, I went to one.
A 3-day conference. It looked really, really fun. And then I saw that company that actually does a Comic-Con conference, they actually were going to be working now on doing their Comic-Con conference on board a cruise ship in 2025. So yes,
that'll be really amazing. I went to a Star Trek convention many years ago and everything, and it was quite interesting. I think I told you this before, but I definitely told it on other shows that I've been part of. But they were doing a talent show, and they were literally singing in Klingon. So if you follow the whole Star Wars, Star Trek kind of background, you know that the Klingons are one of the people from another planet and everything, but they had made up this entire language where they were singing, because I'm going like, I have no idea what they're singing. But when I talked to somebody, they're like, yes, we're having a talent show and everybody is performing within this nature. So they are performing in Klingon in this made up language and everything. But it was quite fun to look at. We did not participate, but I've also seen people dress up in some amazing costumes on land, and I can only imagine what the costumes will look like on the ocean and everything.
I think people dress up like Little Mermaid.
Yep, exactly. I was going to say about the Comic-Con cruise. They did say the Comic-Con cruise has an age requirement. So teens ages 13 and 18 can come, but they must be accompanied by an adult over age 21 in the same or adjoining cabin. So they can come on this cruise, but they got to be with an adult.
Right. Yes, definitely. It's going to be more like adult focused too. And then, but the thing is, I wonder if they'll have like a nautical theme, okay, like Little Mermaid and who knows? It sounds really fun, interesting too. So yes.
It sounds quite interesting. So it should be fun and all along those lines.
Right.
Cool. Well, that was some of the questions I had about the medicine and about the cruise ship themes and everything. So I'll bounce back off. But if you need me toward the end, I may bounce back in and I'll see if we have any other videos. But that was the two things that popped into my head.
Right. Good. Well, one thing I like to do is share positive stories, and those are things that come up periodically. But cruise lines do rescue people too. And something just came up on September 1st. A Celebrity Cruise Line ship and the Italian Coast Guard actually teamed up together over the weekend to rescue more than 200 stranded migrants and in the Ionian Sea. And what happened was the Celebrity Beyond, which is one of their ships, had received a request for assistance about 9:13 in the morning on last Wednesday. And at the time, Celebrity's newest Edge-class ship had just come from Italy, was heading towards Greece. And the Italian Coast Guard requested that the vessel act as a wind and sea shelter so that the small fishing boat that was carrying over 200 migrants wouldn't capsize. So, of course, the cruise ship, the Celebrity Beyond, promptly changed their course, and they headed for the boat that it had actually become adrift about 6 nautical miles away, and arrived 20 minutes later. And upon learning that no life vests on board the smaller boat, the crew of Celebrity Beyond actually gathered and distributed its extra life jackets to those refugees. At the same time, a second Coast Guard cutter helped transfer more people. And one of the cruisers on board mentioned that I didn't know where they came from. It was pitiful because we could hear them screaming and shouting, but then within an hour and a half, all those passengers on that fishing boat had been safely transferred to the cutters. it wasn't sure where the migrants were heading from or they were being escorted to, but once again, it was another way for them to really rescue those people too. They work with the Coast Guard too. So once again, it's great because once again, cruise lines do rescue people and people are not aware of that too. It's a great, great situation. And I know that last January, Celebrity Beyond came to rescue more than a dozen Cuban nationals who were drifting in a makeshift type of vessel. And Captain Kate McHugh was the first and only woman American captain of a cruise line ship with Celebrity Cruises, was in charge during both of those rescues too. And so once again, it's good to kind of share these kinds of stories too, because cruise lines do work with the Coast Guard and hear about different situations like this too. But for them to rescue those turned people and also provide the life jackets, that's really great too. And those people were rescued. So I want to share about that too. It's a really great story too, because once again, it's a good example of how good ship happens. Yes. Something else is we've got a lot of new ships coming out. And one is actually American Cruise Lines. They are U.S. based, family owned, and been around for several years. And their first 100 passenger catamaran, the American Eagle, actually set sail on its inaugural cruise from Boston. And this ship is actually the first of a dozen vessels that American Cruise Lines is actually ordered to operate in U.S. centric coastal voyages. And this 4-deck ship was actually designed and built by Chesapeake Shipbuilding in Maryland, but actually Chesapeake Shipbuilding is actually owned by the family that owns American Cruise Lines, which is great. And so the American Eagle actually set sail on August 14th on a 7-day Cape Cod cruise with calls at Martha Vineyard, Newport, Rhode Island, also the New Bedford, Massachusetts. And the ship is going to actually be christened at the Massachusetts Maritime Academy on August 16th. So it's just christened about a month ago. And she's going to start sailing on the East Coast, including itineraries from Maine, before sailing south on the coast between South Carolina and Florida. And then also its sister ship, the American Glory, is actually expected to debut in November this year with a 10-day American Revolution cruise sailing out of Baltimore. So once again, if you're interested in sailing maybe on a U.S.-built ship within the U.S., definitely consider American Cruise Lines. They are family owned, and they also own the Chesapeake Shipbuilding Company too. They build their own ships, smaller ships. Once again, small capacity, as mentioned. The American, their 100 passenger catamaran has 100 guests. The American Eagle. So definitely keep in mind too. This is another option in case you prefer maybe to try sailing within the U.S. waterways, coastal waterways too. And also, we have a new ship that just debuted recently. It is the Silver Nova. And it's actually Silver Sea Cruises. It's actually a luxury cruise line. And with Silver Sea, they have grown from 7 ships to 12 ships in the past 4 years. And they're making it now with those. They're actually the largest luxury cruise line. So earlier this month, in August, actually, their 128 passenger Silver Nova actually debuted. And it sounds fantastic. They're going to be bringing her to the U.S., so I might have a chance to actually see her maybe in January. But it sounds like a fantastic, beautiful ship. That's getting smaller. They've got different options. Of course, it is luxury, so everything is all included, which is great. Keep in mind, too. And once again, it's the vessel's actually maybe 103 feet longer than their Muse-class ships, but it definitely really fits. I need to, because once again, you think about luxury. Once again, these are smaller ships. In this case, with the Silver Nova, she just accommodates 728 guests, which is great. So once again, keep that in mind, because I know right now she's sailing Mediterranean where she debuted, but they're going to be bringing her over to the U.S. later on. I think it's first of the year to actually christen her officially. That'd be, I think, January 4th maybe, or the 5th or the 6th. And I might get invited to be on that board, see the christening too, which is great too. So it's good to kind of think about that too. As far as other things too, is we actually have, cruises can go to Bermuda. Usually those are certain times of the year. I had a chance to do a Bermuda cruise a long time ago. And with Bermuda cruises, they usually sail out of maybe New York, different areas. But once again, what came up too is there's a new airline. It's a boutique airline, and it's called Bermuda Air, and they just debuted recently in August. And they actually became the first Bermuda-based airline with a year-round service that caters to business and tourism needs too. And tickets actually went on sale on August 24th. And it was for Bermuda Air's first 3 direct routes between Bermuda and also from Wade International Airport and also Boston Logan International Airport, also Fort Lauderdale, and also Westchester near New York City. And the service connecting these would actually begin on August 31st, with service to Fort Lauderdale actually it's going to be beginning actually September 22nd. And these new direct services really provide travelers from these East Coast cities and surrounding areas great ways to really access Bermuda if you want to. It's a beautiful place to go to, very beautiful island, very diverse, just beautiful. And having a chance to do a Bermuda cruise was just beautiful. And yes, they do have pink beaches. Yes, the sand is pink. Yes, beautiful. So another option to think about too.
Yeah, I had another quick question.
Your question, Mark?
Yes. Hold on. Trying to come back.
Okay.
Yep, computer did a little bit of a disturbance there and everything. But my quick question, and all along those lines, was, we're in the middle of hurricane season and everything, even here in North Carolina. As a matter of fact, there might be a storm brewing and heading in this general direction in the next day or two. And that being said, with hurricanes, I know that they happen, and sometimes you're on a cruise when they happen. Are there like warning mechanisms that they let people know that the hurricane is coming, and to let people know that they might want to spend time in their cabin versus other things, and let folks know what is going on when the hurricanes are happening in the ocean, if they divert path and are heading in the direction of the cruise? So I was just wondering how they handle that particular emergency, because I'm imagining it's like schools, that they've got some sort of alarm system that exists on the cruise line so that people know what's going on, and that they might not be doing like maybe the restaurant service and some of the other service that people get at regular times when there are less choppy waters and all of that. So I didn't know if there was some sort of notification, for lack of a better term.
Okay. No, they have protocols, believe me, because once again, when those hurricanes came up that were coming up in the Caribbean, I can't remember the name of it was, but anyway, cruise lines, they canceled ships sailing. Mm-hmm. Also, what they did too is they diverted those itineraries to different itineraries to stay out of the storm area too. They're very, very careful, because once again, what's good too is cruise lines actually have, with their engines and their tracking systems, even the bridge, they get notified in advance from the corporate headquarters about things going on too.
Yeah.
Once again, if something's coming up, they will divert the ship into a different area. They stay out of the storms too completely. In fact, one time I was going on a cruise, and what happened was a hurricane coming up. What they did was they completely changed their itinerary down from an itinerary from the Eastern Caribbean to Western Caribbean last minute to be safe, to stay out of the storm areas too. They're very, very, they've got tracking systems as far as marine, the whole thing too, from their corporate head offers too, and everything. So they stay out of the storms, being very, very safe. So once again, they really are very careful about that, because once again, even as far as staying in staterooms, if things got kind of bad, they would do that. But the point is, they've got these advanced tracking system too, to kind of figure out where the hurricanes might be going, and the storms too, to stay out of those areas. That's a good question, because they're very, very safe. The thing is, they don't want a ship to get in the middle of a hurricane, period. No, they don't do that. They're very safe.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. They don't want the ship to get in the path, and they're going to be talking to the National Weather Service. And I'm sure that they, in some ships, may even have their own weathermen and other things that are on the ships and all along those lines. So they probably have an idea of what is happening, even from the storm standpoint, and are probably trying to keep track of all of those kind of things in that space. So I'm thinking that that's something they do regularly.
It's amazing what they've got. I mean, you would not believe the technology. I've been to have a chance to tour bridges and different cruise ships over the years, and it's amazing what they do as far as their technology. It's amazing.
Yep. They've got amazing technology, and like I said, they are definitely almost like mini cities in the sense, and definitely like even maybe have more amenities than some of the cities that exist, whether that's New York or LA or a number of other things, but they've got all kinds of things that are provided. We talked about the sports, and they've got a number of other things that are on those cruise ships on a regular basis. Sometimes you might even feel that you are getting more amenities on the cruise ship than you are in your individual city, depending on where you are coming from. Because I know that there are some people that are in rural areas that go on these cruises as well, and some of those rural areas don't have as much as what they find on the ships and all along those lines. So they definitely have a tremendous amount of amenities. And I know that earlier you were talking about the way that they are doing a lot of work in the environment. I know a lot of people have been paying attention to climate and climate activities, and definitely there are a lot of cruises that are doing work in that realm. So I know we've had advertisements before with Sylvia Earle and some of the others, but they definitely seem to be very active in trying to make sure that they are not damaging the environment as much as possible.
They're building marine life again, which is great. In fact, I just did an interview. I'm working on an article for somebody, but I interviewed a company. They actually build marine engines too, and there's a high technology things too. Plus, another trend we're seeing now with ever is with cruise lines that are bigger ships are actually operated by liquefied natural gas. As I try and find more solutions, because once again, they want to make sure that carbon monoxide doesn't go up in the air, etc., but they're very more efficient. Right. And also a way to really kind of protect the environment too. But when I did an interview with this gentleman, it was really great with this company, and I'll be writing an article about them, get it out there. There's a special group I'm a member of too, but it's great because once again, people don't realize that cruise lines are really stepping forward. I know with the Cruise Lines International Association, which is Association of Different Cruise Lines, but they set their own metrics. They want to make sure that the cruise industry is to net zero by 2050, and most cruise lines have jumped on that already. I mean, they're building their ships that have liquefied natural gas as far as bigger ships, but other things that are more efficient as far as just not having the carbon things too in the ocean. And also, as we mentioned before too, is with MSC Cruises, they got their own private island in the Bahamas, Ocean Cay MSC Marine Reserve, and that's where the MSC Foundation, which is owned part of the whole MSC Corporation, they're family owned, but they have actually been planting coral reefs there too.
So they're doing all kinds of amazing work in that field. So yeah, they're doing some great things in that area.
Yes. It's good to see that too. That really makes an important effort too, because when the family actually leased that Bahamian island from Bahamian government, I think they actually leased it maybe 2015 or 16, but they actually leased it for $100 million. And then what they did was MSC Foundation actually headed to waste scrap metal. They built trees. They were trying to build a marine life too, but they spent like $400 million.
Wow.
Get that island back up and running. What's really great too is the ships actually dock right there. It's not too far away. Plus, really good too is with the ships docking right there, and spend more time at the island.
Yeah.
If you can actually get on board the ship if you want to, and they have evening events too, which is great. Plus, what I like too is it's just a very relaxing area. The beaches are beautiful. They have nighttime fireworks there too, which is very relaxing too. Not some of the islands that have to have like the roller coasters and the zip lining things too. It's just gorgeous. It has more of a natural, ambiance, which I love myself too.
Yeah, that ambiance is very important. Everything. I'm gonna bounce off, and when we come back and all in that space, I know you still got about another 10 minutes to go and everything along those lines. But I think we'll probably close out with one of your favorite commercials, which is those brothers and all in that space. So definitely we'll have the brothers. Because
once again, I told you, I think in a previous episode, they just announced they have 2 co-godmothers. Their sister's going to be christening the ship.
Wow.
And what's fun too is they just announced that maybe about a month ago, maybe a couple weeks ago. But it's fun because once again, with Celebrity Cruises and the new ship, the Celebrity Ascent, which is coming out, she'll be christened on December 1st. But it's going to be the first ship that's going to have the 2 co-captains, which are brothers. And then they just announced they actually are going to be having 2 co-godmothers that will christen the ship together. They're sisters. And so how fun to have 2 co-captains that are brothers, and they have 2 co-godmothers that are sisters, and I'm going to be looking forward to that so much. I'm actually going to be on their pre-christening voyage first. I might be there for the christening on December 1st. I'm not sure, but how fun to do that too, because once again, it kind of really involves that family ambiance too, more than ever. So that's gonna be fun to mention too, and I think that's great too. And something else too is with I know that Region Seven Seas is an electric cruise line, and what they did was they're bringing new culinary experiences with the introduction of their 128 culinary focused shore excursions in the Mediterranean. And they just announced this, it was earlier this summer, but what they're doing is they're really enhancing their shore excursion offerings and promoting our guests with more opportunities to really indulge in their passion when it comes to travel and culinary delights, which is great. When cruising in the Mediterranean on board their luxury fleet, which is great too. And they got different highlights. I just ran across this before. That'd be good to share it too, because with this cruise line, Region Seven Seas, it's luxury. But once again, you have new culinary experiences that are with shore excursions. I think that really, really is a good way to really enjoy different things too. I know that what they're doing is they've got different events that they're doing right now. One was actually, I think it was called a cooking class with a local chef, and that was in Turkey. You can actually learn how to cook traditional Turkish cuisine in a Bergama restaurant. And another one is they're doing different things. They've got one that was actually in Italy. You get experience a tour of a family-owned organic farm. And like I said, it's kind of farm, and guests can actually enjoy a inspiring lunch made with fresh ingredients from the farm and with panoramic views too. And then once again, too, some of these are free, sometimes they're free. I know that cooking class with local chef in Turkey was actually complimentary, which is great. And I know they're doing one with one in Greece. It was a free one. It was actually another hands-on cooking class in a restaurant in Greece, which is great. But different things like that too. So once again, if you're really interested in the food cuisine, it's a good way to kind of look at different options out there too. And this is actually with Region Seven Seas, and they just announced these new culinary shore excursions too, which are bringing now to their different shore excursions in the Mediterranean right now too. And I know they will continue on that too. But I thought it was kind of fun because once again, cuisine and cruise ships is wonderful, but to be able to go off the ship and be able to do a culinary experience like that too, I think that's really fantastic way to really enjoy more as far as the cuisine and experience it and get some tips as far as cooking too. I think it's fun too. So definitely keep that in mind too, because once again, with cruising, I love cruising on ships. It really relaxes me on the ocean. But once again, when you get off, you want to have fun things to do too. And these are just great experiences to think about too, which I think is just another thing to consider too, because once again, there's so many options out there more than ever. Okay, so keep that in mind too. And something else that is really good too is different cruise lines do have ways to really, I think they recognize veterans. And what they do is they have veterans discounts, which is great. So definitely keep that in mind because they do have a veterans discount. Many cruise lines have that. And I know that with American Queen Voyages, what they do is they've got some different things they're doing too. And what they were doing is they're the ones that cruise within the U.S. American rivers. And for Veterans Day, they provided a moral experience for veterans too. And they got a special offer. So if you're interested, I know the offer it does go through October 31st of this year. And you have to do a promo code too. But once again, it's a good way to recognize veterans. And cruise lines do have some kind of discounts. But I know that they're doing that, which is great too.
Yeah, before we get off and everything, and before we show the brothers named the co-captains and all along those lines, I was just wondering, because I know that on Monday, and our show now is on the 8th, will be the anniversary of that very fateful day of 9/11. So I was wondering, are the cruises doing anything, or are you aware of the cruises doing anything in celebration of that? Because I do know that was many years ago that happened, and all along those lines. I didn't know if there were any sort of cruises that did any sort of honoring ceremonies if they are on the ocean on that particular day.
I think they will, because once again, they have special events on board cruise ships
Right.
I know some cruise lines, they actually have, I know when I was on sailing last year, they had a special tribute to veterans on board. And this was back in May last year. But they do that. I'm sure they will have special events on board just to kind of commemorate the people that lost their lives
Right.
9/11 hitting.
Yeah. No doubt. I'm sure
They
they'll
will.
do that. I know.
They will.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt about that.
Right.
And they definitely should be doing that on a regular basis. And hopefully we'll be having some, maybe even videos of some of the celebrations if I can find some on next week and everything. But here on Pod TV, we'll be having our new show and some of the other shows that we'll be talking about that day as well, including a new show that we're starting called World Politics. But definitely looking forward to that and all in that space. And we're also starting a sports show. That's why I was mentioning sports, because there's going to be a sports show starting on 9/11 as well.
Right.
Cool. But we're going to watch The Brothers unless you had some other news that you wanted to share.
No, that's good because, cruising is coming back, and that's good. We've got new ships coming out. So many new ships, plus, of course, Icon Seas, the biggest ship ever being built, debuts in next year in January. But once again, we've seen a lot of new cruise ships coming out, too, that are smaller. Silver Nova is mentioned. Actually, started sailing earlier, but she's going to be moving to the U.S. and it'll be officially christened in January this next year. Okay. Which is great. Celebrity Ascent will be christened, of course, December 1st with the 2 cow captains and the 2 godmothers. And other ships coming out too. I know Oceania Cruises, they just launched their newest ship a couple months ago. But we've got new ships coming out, and it's really good to kind of see the growth of the cruise industry. But once again, too, there's so many options out there for people to consider too. If you want a smaller ship, there are options out there, bigger ships. It just kind of varies what you want to do too.
Yep, definitely depends on the sizes you want to be on and how much you want to spend, and also how much you want to, the kind of atmosphere you want, because some people might want a more intimate ship and some people might want the larger type ship. So it's like the difference between the city mouse and the country mouse. Some people may want the more intimate atmosphere and some people may want the more extravagant atmosphere.
I know Disney's working on a new cruise ship too. I'll share more about that maybe next week too. Disney, yes.
Sounds good. And on that note, we're going to watch these brothers talking about their little sibling rivalry, because I love this video because the sibling rivalry
is hilarious. I do too. And I hope to meet them. Okay. I want to meet them, take a picture with them, but I can't wait to meet these guys. They look fantastic.
They do look fantastic. I would love to meet them as well. So let's go out with this particular video and we'll see you again next week.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
I am thrilled to be here today to announce the captain of Celebrity Ascent, the Amazing Edge series. They bring their own spirit and energy to the ship and our crew. And so I would like to eliminate all the suspense and announce that the captain of Celebrity Ascent is Captain Kafajis. Oh, did I forget to say there are 2 of them? For the first time ever, Celebrity Cruises has 2 captains. So gentlemen, I happen to know you both really, really well. We've worked together for 15 or 16 years. And a lot of our guests have sailed with you, and some of them know a little bit about you. But they nor I know a lot about you. So let's roll video and learn about your amazing lives.
My name is Dimitrios Kafajis. I am from Port of Athens, Piraeus, in Greece. I graduated the Captain's Academy of Syros, and I am a captain with Celebrity Cruises for the last 19 years. 33 years altogether at sea with Celebrity Cruises. My personal milestone and best moment was when I became a captain at the age of 36, being by then the youngest and by far the funniest captain on the fleet, only to live enough to have my brother breaking this record at the age of 34. Bless you, Tassos. I will never forget you for this. My relationship with my brother can be described as father-son relationship and not brothers, since we have 11 years difference with Tassos. I know my pretty face fool you, but there are 11 years difference. When I first heard that I was going to be the captain of the Ascent, and together with my brother, 2 brothers, to start a ship for the company we love.
My name is Tassos Kafajis, and I'm a captain on board Celebrity Cruises. The reason I came to the maritime industry is because of my brother. He's my role model. I was so influenced by him, So I applied for Celebrity Cruises that my brother was working already. And I joined Celebrity Century back in 1998, once it was brand new. And I moved on, and 25 years later, here I am as a captain. Since we became a captain, we didn't have the opportunity to work together, and we're always saying how fun it would be if we could do a contract together, even as captains. Now, to do that together with an opening of the newest vessel of Celebrity Cruises, it's like a dream come true.
When he first became a captain, I gave him a Mont Blanc pen and a Warren bead with a cross and an evil eye, and I said to him, have it in your pocket, and when you think that you are helpless, just put your hand in your pocket, rub it, and you're gonna be there.
You mean this one? That's you?
Yep.
Him.
I would say that I might be the prototype, but he is the newer, better version. Captain 2.0, if I may say.
He changed the way captains interact with their guests and the crew. He opened up a big window for all the captains to follow.
Not only congratulations, but thank you. It's such a pleasure and an honor to work with both of you every day, and I can't wait to be on the stage with you on Celebrity Ascent.
Yes.
I bet, knowing the two of you, you are going to have a lot of fun with the guests.
When we both would be dressed up as captains on the ship, I will go talk to them first, and then I claim that I had to go, leave, and Tassos come back and carry on what I started and see if they're going to pick it up. And I guarantee you,
Are they going to get a prize or something if they do pick it up?
They're going to get a dinner with the captain.
Oh, how fun! There you
With
go.
this captain.
With that captain.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard. This is your captain, Captain Kafetsis of the Celebrity Ascent.
No. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome aboard. This is your captain, Captain Kafetsis of the Celebrity Ascent.
No, this is your captain, Captain Kafetsis of the Celebrity Ascent.
No. This is the captain, Captain